Okay, we are just making sure we are live. Make sure it's all connecting. All right, great. Okay, cool, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. I'm going to try to make these a weekly thing so that we can talk about all this fun stuff. Also, let me know if anything weird's happening on the stream, making sure. We have to probably wait for some of you on the Twitch because there's an ad before, so I'll just ramble a little bit. So I'm wanting to make these a weekly thing, and I'm thinking about doing them either Saturdays or Thursdays. Still determining. Hello from United States. Well, hello from United States to Ukraine. Welcome. Those of you tuning in, feel free to ask questions as we go along. Any questions you've had on other things, but the last two streams we've been talking about Redshift and Cinema 4D, and we're going to be staying in there for a little bit. Eventually we'll move over to some Houdini stuff, and we're going to talk about some Maya stuff, all specifically about Redshift. So we're going to be doing a lot of Redshift stuff. Eventually, I may be doing some, I may do some Octane stuff just for some smaller stuff, because it is, I like Octane, I really do, and I still use it, but I'm just fanboying about Redshift lately. So this image that I'm working on right here, this was what I was talking about with Redshift doing good with like massive scenes. And I've been talking to some of you in the comments about this and why I like Redshift. So I'll just talk a little bit about this scene. This one, you know, even with Redshift, it takes a little bit longer for the final render. When I'm previewing, it's a little messier, but that's okay. When I hit the final render, it looks really, really good. I don't get hardly any fireflies, and if I do, I just turn up the samples a little bit. But I'll kind of show you, I took some screenshots of the progression of the render, and some of these I screenshotted while I was rendering, so excuse that, and I kind of want to show you what was happening. So some of the earlier rendering, you can see I was getting just some noise in the volumes, right, the environment volume, and from the moonlight. And so some things I've been learning is you need to turn up the samples. If you start getting this kind of stuff, turn up your samples on your lights. When you go to a light and you click on, like for example, let's see if I can show you. So this moonlight right here, if you look at the volume tab, there'll be samples, and these are set to 12. I turned them up a little bit more to 64, and I noticed over time, let me go to the one in the final one. This is how much cleaner it got. From that, I mean, it went from this to that. So I was able to clean a lot of that up, turning up my samples and my lights. Just some other things I've been learning, and so I eventually had to turn up some samples on some of this stuff right here. Now this screenshot, it wasn't done rendering. I kind of was doing progressive snapshots to kind of see what was cleaning up my render, and I was seeing some stuff here and here, and I started just kind of messing with the samples and figuring out how to get rid of some of this noise. And this isn't, you know, even the final. I could crank up my overall samples and stuff like this, but this scene it's pretty big. I use I don't know if you guys know the plugin Forester. It's a really good plugin, and it comes with these plants, and all of these plants, when this animation's done, when I finish this, because this is going to be kind of my example of why I love Redshift, all of these plants are blowing and moving, and even the trees, I have everything animated. I baked the wind forces in Forester, so it looks really good. Converted all the materials to Redshift. I got these sci-fi crates from a kit bash, I can't remember the name of it, and I planted these out here. The camera's basically looking down. I'll show you the animation in just a second, and it pans up and we see this cool spaceship in this forest being lit by the moon. And I am still going to add some more volumetrics coming out of here. And now all of this smoke stuff, that is all animated as well. So that is actually some VDBs I created in Houdini. So I did a fluid sim, baked out the VDB, and brought it in here. And sure enough, Octane or Redshift loved it, and it did a really good job. So on these volumes, and I'm starting to see a little bit of some weird stuff happening from this light casting on this volume, and I think I need to turn the samples on this. This is some IES lights I had in here, and so you just kind of go through and you can do render regions with like this, and sorry. And what I'll do is sometimes I'll just do render region, and then in my settings right now I have it. I haven't optimized this render yet. I would go through and see, okay, what do I need to turn up? What do I need to turn down? And I would override samples and kind of figure out what is creating some of this noise, and then you need to balance it out through your whole scene. So, I mean, even in post, you can do some noise reduction as well. But this, I have this same scene set up in Octane, and I was having a lot of trouble, like with fireflies everywhere. It was having a hard time with the volumes. It was having a hard time with the reflections, and I kept getting things flickering. And then when I converted this whole thing over when I started doing Redshift to Redshift, and it's been awesome. So yes, it's been really, really good. Welcome everyone who's showing up. What, Slabo, like at YouTube? Awesome, welcome. Illest Villain Productions, what's up? Yeah, hello everyone. Feel free to say hi and ask some questions. So anyway, I'm going to show you the kind of the animation of this. We're not going to really be going into this. This is kind of a little secret project that I'm going to, or just a personal project that I'm eventually going to release. But I'm not even done yet, so I'm still going to texture this whole spaceship in Substance Painter, and I'm going to. I was thinking about doing a kind of a wet map on top of the spaceship, so it looks like this environment's like kind of foggy, and it's created condensation on the spaceship. I think that would be kind of cool. I also have X particles where these so the engines turn on and maybe some bugs fly up from these plants. I think that would be cool. And then eventually I'm going to take this all the way into Nuke, and I want to composite some people in here. So I actually thought it'd be cool if someone was on top of this, like welding something, like he just is fixing something before they take off, and maybe some other guys like will have like a log sitting right here on the in the grass, and maybe two guys are sitting there like hanging out before they're about to take off, where they just like stand up, they're like, oh, engines are turning on, we got to get going. I don't know. You just kind of create a cool story, like they dropped off these crates in the middle of this field somewhere. So I don't know, just kind of fun. It's just it's a good way to practice. And then I was also going to do some projections in here, maybe on some environment stuff. I don't know. I kind of like to take everything I know and kind of mesh it into something. So this is something I'm going to be doing soon. And also in here, I loaded the ACES color configure, because it doesn't look like this normally. I loaded my ACES 1.03 LUT in here, and it looks really good. So it looks cool and cinematic. So yeah, added that. And let's take a look at the animation. So it looks a little crazy. We'll see if it'll play back all right. So again, it's going to play a little slow because every single one of these plants, it's a proxy, and they are all moving and blowing through the wind. And if you can see right up here, those are my volumes. So I brought in a Redshift volume object, and you direct it towards wherever you saved your VDB sequence, and you can see all this smoke is blasting out through those engines into the bushes and all around here, and it looks really cool. So just really fun stuff you can do. So yeah, I see those engines are, it's probably what's taking a little bit. So yeah, there's a lot of geo in here, and it's really heavy. You know, most of the stuff is proxied, but so it's going to play back a little slow, but I think the end result will be really, really cool when it's done. So just thought I'd share that with you guys. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Let's open a new project, and today we're going to be talking mostly about, I think we want to talk about hair and maybe some subsurface scattering stuff. So let's show you how to create some hair in Redshift. Make sure this is, I think my defaults are set up for Octane. Please show the render. The render for the spaceship, because that one's not done yet. And so it takes a little bit of time. Let's turn this on. This is how I just set up my files really quickly. Okay, that'll be good enough for now. All right. So those of you that use Cinema 4D know how the hair stuff works. And if you don't, this would be a great lesson, just Cinema 4D lesson. So you have a sphere. Let's make it editable and select all of its polygons and go to simulate. Sorry, the spaceship's not, I don't have the final render done yet, but when it's done, I will share it with you. So it'll be cool when it's done. Let's go to add hair, and that did some funky stuff. There we go. So that's how easy it is to add hair in here. Done. So the cool thing is, it is so easy to get Redshift to recognize hair stuff. I believe if I just even preview this, it'll see it. Bam. So that's, I mean, already I don't have to put anything on this. No object tags, nothing. And we have hair. And the cool thing is, is it recognizes Cinema 4D's hair shader. So this is super cool because you can do things like, let's vary the length. Just click on this, variation 100. So it's going to give some variations there. And to see something a little more drastic, turn on frizz, variation 100. So it's already giving us some just, I don't know, giving it more life instead of just being so clean. How much time does it to make a 5-minute nut scene? What? And we'll get into the proxies. So the proxies it was using for those plants, the proxies were the forester. So we had some questions about the proxies on those plants. I was actually using the plugin. Let me go to my plugins. And maybe I'll show you guys this after. Forester, and it has this multi-cloner. And it works, and the nice thing is Redshift understands it. We'll do that after. How about we just do some plants and some hair and stuff. I don't know what best media means by 5-minute nut scene. Let me know what you mean by that. Excuse me. So a couple other things I want to do on this really quickly. And you know what? I always like things to look a little bit prettier because this looks like garbage right now. Let's add a dome light because I love putting dome lights in. We'll go, sorry guys, you have to see all this crap. Let's get an HDR. I think I'm going blind. At work I was having some fun with some of this hair stuff before. So there we go. All right. And another thing I like to do is line up like area lights to where the HDRI lights are. So I'm just going to do that really quick. Put an area light in here. And let's rotate this guy. And we'll turn up our intensity so you can see what's happening. Great. Let me know if you guys are having a hard time seeing any of this. I'll try to maybe render this a bit closer. So yeah, there we go. We have this little hair scene. Really basic, but I just want to show you how cool, how well Redshift just does this stuff. So hair is really fun to play with. You can do whatever. So I'm gonna have these be a bit thinner, and we will do a cloner. I don't know if you guys know anything about the hair thing, but you can go in here into hairs and you can clone this so we can make it thicker. And it's like basically creating a hair proxy. So bam, now we have this thick hair. And let me just turn off the IPR, and we're going to do a comparison on this, because I believe so one of the things we need to turn on the optimization is our hair min pixel width, because I think what that does is it understands where the hairs are, and it will make them a little bit cleaner. So we're just going to do kind of a comparison since we have this set up. And actually, this is also a good time to show you guys how to put LUTs on your rendering. Okay, so I need to turn this off and make sure, maybe it's already set up with my, there we go. All right. Okay, so now we're rendering the hair in this window. And actually, yep, we already have our aces. So if you click on this dialog right here, you can start importing right here. It changes from sRGB to a LUT or OCIO, which is, I think, the film standard for like coloring, which is ACES color format. So that's what I just put it on that one. And we can do a comparison. So if we have this render, let me turn off the IPR so that it will do like a final render. I'm just going to let this render really quick. So once you turn IPR off, it's not going to preview as fast. It's actually going to cache your light bounces, and then it'll render, do like what your final render will look like. Let's see if it's doing it. Here it goes. You can see the buckets going. And I'm going to make a screen grab. So you can add a screen grab. There we go. And I can stop this thing. So now we have a screen grab. If we click right here, and we can, we'll be able to compare. So now let's turn on the optimization, and I think it's this. And we'll just do this render first, and then see if that was the correct thing, because I believe it is. All right. And again, your final renders in Redshift will take longer than what you previewed, but it cleans it up, because Redshift is a bias render, which means you'll set like a limit, and then it'll get to that limit, but then it'll like run a process of like cleaning up. Like they have these cool algorithms. They're like, oh, they're trying to reach this this many samples, and once it hits that, we're gonna try to clean that up. So let's add another screenshot. Okay. And let's zoom in. Let's see if this. So far that hasn't made too big of a difference. And I also want to, maybe this, I don't know something's going on. All right, let's stop this for a second. So this is what I rendered. Trying to see the difference what the hair pixel width does. And I think there's one more place, the hair tessellation. I think this is the right thing. All right, let's try again. Again, let me know if you guys have questions on any of this hair stuff. So let's render again. Again, feel free to ask some questions. I'm reading some of the comments, trying to see. Looks like we have most of you on YouTube. But if you guys have questions, I'll try to answer to the best of my knowledge. I feel like I'm still just learning a ton about all this. But there's not a lot of content yet for C4D Redshift. Okay, let's take a screen grab of that. And we'll stop the render. So let's see. Sadly, I'm not noticing too big of a difference. Maybe it's because I'm too zoomed in. I don't know. But I watched a tutorial where guy said, do turn that on. So I guess that didn't work. The other thing I'm noticing that's looking a little weird is I think we need to turn up some of our samples overall. So, because we're getting some crazy noise. And it's really low right now. So I'm going to do this to 240 and this to 150. let's do a little quick render. So Best Media says, I'm new in the making VFX. So what is the name of the program? Okay. So Best Media, this is Cinema 4D. It's a 3D application. And it's mostly used for motion graphics, but there's a lot of great tools in here to do visual effects. And you can do compositing, projections. It's just not a 3D application like Maya or 3ds Max, Houdini. There's all these different applications, and you kind of need to see what you like best. And I started on Cinema 4D, so I'm so used to it. It's always hard to go to something else. Even though now I'm learning Maya and I'm learning Houdini and some other things. But yeah, Cinema 4D is just, I guess I'm really familiar with it. Hello, Lone Wolf Films. What's up? So yeah, now this render's cleaning up. I turned up some of my samples, and we can see, compare that. Let me make a screenshot to that. See, so just turning up our samples a little bit more, we're getting some cleaner renders. And it's comparable in speed. So let's go back to our IPR window and talk a little bit more about the hair stuff. So right now also this is a still. We're not doing some animation. We could do animation. I was even doing, like, you could play this in your sim, and maybe we could play back while this is going on, but I'd be kind of scared to do that. Oh yeah, we gotta turn our IPR back on so we get faster previewing. There we go. Okay, go. So, I mean, it's pretty fast for even just this hair stuff. But I was going to show you guys some cool things. So, if we had let me hide this hair. And I'm going to do a normal Cinema 4D texture. I know, just for the example of this preview window. And I have a normal C4D texture on here. And let me say, let's put I know there's a checkerboard around here somewhere. Checkerboard. Okay, checkerboard. Great. Let's do 5.5. Okay. So we have this checkerboard pattern, and let's say we wanted our hair to have that same pattern. There's a way to do it. If you go in here and you copy this shader, and we go into the hair shader, and in color, if you paste your texture in here, oopsie, I don't know why that didn't paste shader. So now we paste that checkerboard pattern in here. Let me go to the first frame. Oh no, it didn't do what I said. Let's see, make sure it's on surface. Well, already we have an issue. I literally tested this today. Don't you hate that when that happens? Test something, and then you try to show people and it doesn't work. Slav video says, does Redshift do animation well? Yes. Redshift does I believe, really nice looking animation and great motion blur. And we can do a video on that as well, talking about that. So it's supposed to be doing the same as this, but I don't know why that's not doing exactly what I told it to. So this is where we do some investigative work, because it's supposed to be picking up that same texture. Just curious. I don't believe this is what you're supposed to do. Nope, it's not. Interesting. Let me bring the scaling down, my length of these hairs, so we can kind of see what's going on. I actually wonder if it has to do with my cloner. That's so weird. I literally just did this the other day. Let's try a different thing. Let's try a different texture. It could just be because that's like a special kind. Let's make this super high contrast. 10, wait, no. 300. So you're starting to get noise in there. And if we took this texture, copy it, and paste it in here, that looks more accurate, but let's we basically want this texture to be, you know, going out the same way. All right, let's turn these hairs down to like 10, get it closer, see what's happening. Yes, it is. I think it is working. So it must be the checkerboard. It doesn't like checkerboards. But I'm guessing if you did any other texture, like, let's just try another texture. Let's do, how about making the white, the ball white and the hair black? Yeah, we can do that. I was going to throw just another texture to kind of show you guys that basically the surface of the ball can have this same texture. That's what I was trying to show. So we'll see if I can get this to work properly, because that's embarrassing that that did not work the way I wanted it to. Oh, there we go. So you can see wherever there's green and pink. And let me also turn off my specularity, because that could be a. There we go. So there, I think some of our reflection was messing it up. So you can see now, if you have a texture, you know, on whatever, you have a monster, whatever, you can use that texture to drive the color of the hair, which is so cool. And I realize my specularity is probably super high, which is why we weren't able to see it properly. So if I turn this down, and we can crank up these clones to get some thicker hair. Boom. Let me stop that really quick, and we're gonna do a count to, like, I'm just gonna add a 1 in front of this. This is gonna be super thick, but you're able to see that the surface of whatever texture we have on the surface, now our hair is taking on that color. Super, super cool. So that's a really quick way to texture your hair. If you have like an animal, you can make, you know, you can give it more life and more variation. So if you like paint it, if you have a really basic geometry like squirrel or something, and you painted a texture, you can use that texture to drive the color of your hair. And I wanted to go back into this. We can crank our frizziness up. And we could do some clumping. We can do curling, some waving. It's really fun to just like mess with some of these parameters and kind of see what it's going to do. So now we're getting a really interesting effect. That looks really crazy. And you can mess with the specularity in here. But again, this is one of the reasons why I really like Redshift with C4D, because you can do some cool stuff pretty quickly. This is like some nasty monster with like, I don't even know, like rainbow hair. And the cool thing is, this whole thing's dynamic. Like it's gonna animate and everything. So Go. Let me stop my sim. Hit play. Oops, it's hidden. Really, you know, that's all we have. And then if I hit render now, it's all going to kind of drape down or do some weird looking stuff. That's cool. And let me make these hairs longer. There's a couple things I wanted to do. Let's go 50. And let's play with some of the dynamics in here. So you can look at the properties of your hair and tell it to do some cool stuff. So if you want it to rest hold, let's turn that to like 20. So we're gonna see if we can keep this thing from completely falling down. It's not enough. 50, and there we go. So now the hairs are kind of bouncing and they're dynamic, but they're not gonna fall, which is kind of cool. And actually, let's see if we can animate our sphere kind of like twirling. So let's set a keyframe, rotate, move forward, and we'll just spin it and see what that does. So there's no drag on this yet. So I could turn the drag up. Let's turn this like 20. Still a little too stiff. Okay, let's go back. Oh, sorry guys, some pop-up. 40. And sometimes with the simming stuff, you just gotta see what works. Oh yeah, that drag looked a lot better. 50%. Cool. Let me render this. These hairs are kind of all over the place, but that's okay. So yeah. Now we have this craziness, and it's all dynamic, and it's all gonna, that thing would move and sway properly, but we have this cool hair looking stuff. Is there any questions so far on any of this? Am I going too fast? Are you guys doing good? Cool. Yes, so that's the hair stuff. And I really think you guys should just, you know, if you have Cinema 4D, open it up and just play with all of this stuff. There's so much you can do. And another cool thing, while I got you guys here, is you can, oh, 1 second. My wife's, huh? Oh, I'm live streaming right now. Sorry, guys. And there's a lot of cool different things you can do in here. I was going to show you some of the grooming tools. Let me open up the tools. Where are they? Let me see. Tools. Where's my hair tools? There they are. I'd pull these off to the side. So you have these cool hair tools, and if you click on your hair and we go like brush, we can brush this thing. Let me open up this window a bit bigger so you guys can see. So you can comb the hair to be in a certain direction, or you can clump things together. You can really mess with some stuff, or cut the hair. So you can give it a haircut if you're like, oh, we don't want, you know, we want these to be a bit shorter. And then when you hit sim, oops, make sure you go back to your object mode. But now it'll start there, and there we go. And let's just check this out. So yeah, we gave this nasty thing a haircut, and it was super quick, and it looks really awesome. So yeah, so that's a lot of the hair tools. Super easy. And you don't even need to put a Redshift object tag on it. It just recognizes it. I have my graphics cards. The question is about my IPR window updating pretty quickly, and it's because I have two GTX 970s, And with Redshift, you can have up to 8 graphic cards in your machine that it will recognize and it'll use. So yeah, which is really cool. All right, so let's just stop this. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna group these together. Alt G will group things, and we can just slide this over. And I'm gonna hide it. But we're gonna bring in, let's play with a cube. And we're gonna play with some of the subsurface scattering stuff. Now, I don't know it super well, so we're going to be kind of learning together, and it'll be fun. So they have these, they have skin, and they have other things you can do. Let's just try the skin shader. Drop it on there. Render. And so this, it looks like it's pretty basic. I'm just, sometimes when I'm learning a new tool, I will just click a whole bunch of stuff and see what it does. So it looks like primary, let's crank the weight up. I have 2 GPUs on my PC. I think if you're using, sorry, the question is from Slabo about GPUs on his other PCs. I think if you network your computers, and you may have to run a license on that computer as well. I'm not sure actually on the network rendering side as much, but on it would probably be better just to have it on your both of these. Oh, you have one 1080 Ti. Oh, that's interesting that it's updating slow. It should be updating fast. Interesting. Because I feel like it updates. I mean, I have 2 970s and it's going pretty quick. Let's see. Let's check out some of the scattering. Mid scattering, shallow scattering. Guys, I honestly don't know how the skin shader works that well. I'm gonna definitely learn this one though. I'm wondering if we don't have a hard enough source, because sometimes with scattering you need like really bright lights. Oops. Let's stop that. Let's get a spotlight. And we are going to make the spotlight super hot. See, I'm not getting the results that I'm wanting from this yet on the subsurface scattering. Let's move this back. And let's crank this thing up. It is super bright. And I'm wondering why I'm not seeing... Sorry, I got some... I'm wondering why this isn't updating properly. Very interesting. So if some of you know this, let's just go back to the normal. Let's try a normal subsurface scattering node and see what that does. So I'm gonna turn that one off, and maybe we try. Maybe my cube is too big or it's too small. Who knows? I'm gonna try a sphere. I'm gonna actually go bigger with it. And yeah, let me drop the same texture on here. So yeah, let's try it smaller then. I feel like it's still not. It's definitely something in my texture that I don't understand. Overall scale. Oh. I feel like that was starting to we're starting to get there. I literally have everything cranked Just trying to like figure it out. Single scattering. All right, well, let's try a different material and break it down from there. Here's normal subsurface scattering. See, I already feel like that one's doing more than the other one. So they have these presets. Curious. And let's try to let's turn this area light way bright. See what that does. So it looks like it may be a scaling issue. So you're starting to see some subsurface scattering right there. But I should be able to see a lot more than that. So let's try these other presets. And another good way to learn when you're kind of messing around with things like I am right now is, yeah, they have these different things you can choose from. And I'll just turn these on one by one and kind of see where they're changing their parameters. So this one, the glossiness is way high. Let's see, scatter radius. Single scattering. I know what I'm going for, which is kind of weird because I'm definitely not getting what I want. Gonna crank this to 50. See, that's definitely not the right way to go. Phase. Oh, man. Let's turn up. That's reflections. All right, let's try something else. Let's go to cream. See, that one's shining through really well. Subsurface color. What if we wanted it to be pink? Interesting. Okay. Scale. So that one's shining through very, very well. But now I can't see my scattering color. Maybe my light's too bright, and so it's just destroying. Because all we're seeing is now this subsurface scattering. If any of you have an answer, let me know. Let's keep playing with this thing. And if this doesn't work, I'll show you how I do it. My cheat way. Very interesting stuff with the subsurface scattering. I thought it would be a lot easier than this. And I'm actually having a pretty hard time figuring it out. Let's look at the... No, it feels like nothing's changing. Usually things change, if I'm clicking, because I'm changing quite a bit. All right. Well, this was a failed attempt, and I am curious. Oh, no, that's the IOR, so that's going to just change the reflections. Interesting. So nothing really changed in that. I'm going to show you my cheat then. So I have a cheat for doing subsurface scattering, and so far it's worked. So what I do is, if you're having an issue with creating one, we're just gonna put a normal material on it, and then in here they have a really cool thing called backlighting, and let's say it's on that. This backlighting gives this weird impression that it has subsurface scattering. It's really weird, and I still actually don't know how it works, but it's really cool. I'm just gonna throw a little displacement on here, just so we're not getting a completely flat. So if we have, let's go into, see this, the backlighting, it starts feeling like it's subsurfaced, which has subsurface scattering, but it's just like a backlight. Then if you turn on, let's turn on like the roughness a little bit on the reflections, and let's have this be like, so if you had this be like a dark red, and then let's turn this one like a light. See, that's starting to feel like it's subsurface scattered. But I'm wondering if you did a vector map and plugged that into the weight, and it would then feel like basically whatever's extruded isn't using the backlighting translucency. So that's, I guess, a little cheat way to do it. Good idea. Maybe disable the dome light, and we'll try the subsurface scattering after. But this, I mean, this is a total fake subsurface scattering, and it kind of works. Yeah, backlighting is really cool. So let's see if we can actually do some in here as well. If we have, I always just try like some off colors to see if we can see, like this one's working. Let me turn off my backlighting. See, what the heck? This one's working in here. Oh, weird. It's giving us, I have this set to red, but it's giving us a blue. Whoa, that's funky. Oh, it's because I have it a little too high. There we go. There we go. Hey, look, guys. Subsurface scattering's working now. It works. And it looks like if you crank this too high, it starts getting into Crazyville and doing some weird stuff. But it looks like on the lower end, it'll totally work. So phasing, this is how much is gonna come through. So now it's just like right there. Oh boy, 0.8. Let's try that. And let's crank these samples up, 64. And let's try, put this to 1. We're starting to get closer, guys. 5. See that? It's working. I had faith the whole time it would get it to work. No, I was actually kind of nervous that thing was not working. Okay, I'm going to crank this up, and then it looks like if I bring my scatter scale down, but it'll phase the right point. Oh boy. Let's go back to 3. Interesting. Cool. So it looks like I had a better I have better results using the good old normal material, just the Redshift material. Cool. And let's turn the samples 120. And let's do actually a like a render, like turn IPR off, because I am now wondering, and I'm gonna smooth this thing out. I'm gonna just throw a subdivision surface on this, and so it just looks a little bit cleaner. So we have a lot of you know, kind of noise in here. But if we, when we do the final render, if we still have it, so it's going to calculate. And if we still have tons of noise, look, the final render, completely clean. Look at that. That's why I love Redshift. Because, see, in this example, I feel like Octane would just keep trying to use the IPR, and it would just go and go and go, and you'd still get all this crazy noise. This, once you hit render, because it's biased, it goes, hey, you're trying to get to this many samples. I'm going to get to that, and then I'm going to clean it up. And voila, it does it. I freaking love it. So, really cool. I'm going to put something inside, like a sphere, and we're going to see if we can see that sphere inside of. So now it looks like an egg. It looks like there's something inside. So if you're ever doing like an anatomy video, this could be the way to do it. And what if we put a, we haven't talked about this, but an incandescent material, like a glowing one. Let's just put that on that sphere and see what happens. See if we can see any glowing. Doesn't look like it. Didn't look like it registered. So let me stop this and turn the IPR back on and hit play, render. And I'm just curious if we do have a material that has like some luminance. Oh yeah. It'll totally recognize it, which is awesome. Oh shoot. I freaked it out. That's okay. It happens in every program. There's actually not one program I've ever used that doesn't crash. Any questions so far? So this is kind of fun to experiment with you guys and see what's working and see what your solutions are. And I think it's fun to solve issues together. I should have saved that project. Everyone's like, no, it crashed. That's okay. It happens. That's like why I guess you make sure that you have things set up so they don't do that. I did not. I was a fool. This is good. You guys get to see me like set this thing up like a million times. Every single. I should have set this up before. Oh, and we didn't even look at this subsurface scattering stuff. Huh. Interesting. I'm gonna turn this thing up. I might as well. We're gonna do another subsurface object, and we'll do. This time, we're going to create like a sphere that has like a displacement texture on it. Oops, let me change this to just standard because I don't like the way it does that. Oh boy. C, edit. And let's grab the Redshift tab. So how many Cinema 4D users do we have in here? I'm just curious. Do any of you use Cinema 4D? I want to know. And I want to know how many Maya users we have. And also, if you guys have cool resources of places where you get textures and stuff, let's share the information, because I think it's good to have, you know, some knowledge of where people are finding stuff. It's good for me. It's good for everyone. So, all right, cool. We got a sphere. Yeah. So let us know where you're finding your goodies on the internet. Let's see, materials. Let's go back to. Do we dare try to do a SSS? I'm scared too. So I'm gonna go back to material because I was having success with this normal material. And this time we're going to. Let's set this back up to the way we had it. This like red, it's dark red on the outside. And we're gonna do, let me just start rendering this out. Let's see where we're at. Got a red ball. And let me close this window. We'll just work in the node graph. And we're gonna turn this on. we go. Yeah, scattering works in this pretty quickly. Turn the samples up. And we're going to put a displacement on this one this time. So to do displacements, we've talked about this before. You got to grab a displacement tab thingy, put it into the displacement, and then we have to give it a texture. So we can say texture, drop this in here, plug it into texture map, and we will find a texture that we want to use. So let's go to my assets, materials. Let's see, we got some basic materials, construction. Yeah, we'll do like a interesting. That one's kind of cool. That height field in this one. Here we go. And immediately it's not going to understand displacements. So what you need to do whenever you're doing displacements is you need to put a Redshift object tag, go into geometry, and turn it on. Otherwise, it will not work. And it should have worked. Let's make sure I have the setup right. Stop that. Textures is let's see here. I definitely have that plugged into the right thing. Geometry. Oh, do I need to have that on? I'm gonna crank this scale up. There we go. Something wasn't right. I don't know what the heck was going on. Maybe this texture's just like doesn't have enough contrast. Let me duplicate this light. Oopsie. Let's throw one of these back behind. And let's play with this subsurface scattering phase a little bit more. So we have displacement on there. Scattering scale, absorption scale, transmittance color. Oh, I think this is like value of how much it is. So it was going weird because I think this either needs to be like white or black. Extinction. Let me turn up some of our lights. See if that's gonna change some of this. Scaling it. So you can see it's working, but I feel like it's not doing exactly what I want. The phase. Oh, there we go. It's because I had the scaling too high. So it looks like that's gonna affect like the fall off quite a bit. You kind of need to dial things between your scale and your phasing and see where it's gonna hit. You can turn the roughness on, or we can plug a texture into a roughness because it looks cooler. So let's do another texture. and drag this down here. And we'll find a cool rough texture we can put on this. I really like my masking materials. And we'll do like grunge. That's a cool one. And we'll just grab this and put it into reflections, roughness. Now we can see we have some roughness on our reflections. And if we wanted our reflections, we could even change the color so it's not as we just have more of a red tinted specular. So that's looking kind of cool. And I also wanted to move this other light. I don't like, let me lock this view and move the light. I feel like I'd rather have it a little bit more behind. And we'll crank up the brightness on that as well. And last thing I want to do is I want to put like maybe a cube inside. And we're going to turn so people are talking about it crashing. Let me mess with the phase a little bit more. Yeah, I want it more like transparent so you can like see through it and see that there's something on the inside. It's like an egg with like a cube inside of it. It's kind of interesting. So there we go. You can see this like hint of something inside of there, and you could like animate that. And let's just do a quick render. Let's turn the IPR mode off. I always like to stop this before I do this because sometimes it makes me paranoid. Let's hit render. And voila, we have really clean subsurface scattering. Like, that's super clean. Holy cow, that actually surprised me. That cleans up every time so well. I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. It's gonna render again, then I'll stop it. Okay. See this? I can't see any like noise bleeding in there, so that's great. It does such a good job with that kind of stuff. So yeah, subsurface scattering makes everything look cool. It really does. This is like a nasty egg thing. And we could even add, like we had before, the displacement deformer. That's the thing I like about Redshift, is it does so well with deformers and pretty much anything in Cinema 4D. It just interprets it really, really well, which I really like. And the displacement stuff is really cool. I don't know if any of you have messed with displacement things, but it does a really cool job at interpreting like textures. You could even put a texture on this and on the displacement and double duty it. So let's just render this. So now we have the surface is going to be a little bit more bumpy. Cool. And you know what we're going to do now? We're going to take what we've learned, like with the hair stuff. So we're going to select these polygons, and then we'll be done with today's stream. And we're going to add hair on this. So we're just going to kind of use all of the things we've learned. So now this thing's going to have hair all over it. And let's have the length like 20. And let me save this just in case for some reason it crashes. SSS hair. And in the hair stuff, You know, we could change this to be, we'll just leave it brown, and we'll turn the specular down because that was an issue we had before. And we'll turn some frizz up to like 100. And now we're going to render it. Let's see what we got. So now we have hair all over this thing, and we have the subsurface scattering. Ew, those hairs are nasty and thick. I want to fix that. And we're getting some noise. So we can also figure out how to get rid of that noise. And I can show you some techniques. Let me stop this really quickly, and we're going to go back to the IPR mode. So I can kind of preview this as I make some changes. First things first, I do not like how thick that is, so we're going to go 0.1 and 0.01. Oops, this is maybe too much, but let's go 0.01. We'll make these hairs thinner, and let's actually, I want to make these hairs longer, and because I think that would look cool. Length, variation, clump, displace. I'm just going to turn a couple things on. Let me stop this render, change the length to 50. Now we're going to hit render. So we're getting some, I wonder if this is some specular issues we're having right there. Let me stop this and turn off the IPR mode. Let's see roughly what our final render will look like. So yeah, we're getting some, it looks like the secondary bounce or something that's coming off this. It could be the subsurface. And this is where we start using the render region, and we start messing with our some of our render parameters. So I'm actually going to use the render view mode for now, and we are going to figure out what's causing the issue. So first thing, let me hit render. Hello, welcome back, Young Nankya. I don't know how to say your name. Sorry, I'm trying my best. Welcome back. It's interesting because, yeah, so we still have some noise right here. So I'm going to isolate this, and we're going to open up, let me stop this. And first thing I'm going to do is we can turn up some samples that we already have. So I'm trying to figure out what is causing this, and I'm wondering if it's the light shining through, casting on to the hairs. So that could be the subsurface scattering. Yes, the bottom of the ball looks weird because of the displacer. It's just set up kind of weird. I could change it. So I'm going to actually try to change my let's crank up these samples first. I'm just curious to see if this is what's causing it, and we'll hit IPR. It's going to render this area, and it looks like it didn't really clean it up that much. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to stop it, and we can start doing sample overrides. So it could be reflections, and we can scale those by, we'll just do it by 2. So it's going to take what we have and, scale it by 2. That's what it just said. And that's not it. And it could just be our samples overall. So we're going to go 320 and go 240. I'm just right now just kind of guessing. Sometimes overall samples will, oh, we're getting rid of a lot of it. So this is scaling our scene samples. So it looks like that's getting rid of a ton of it. Let's try. There's refractions. It could be, I'm wondering if it's, well, I don't know if it would be refractions. It could be our light. We're just going to try scaling each of these and figure out, we're We're going to isolate this area and figure out what is causing that. We're still getting a little bit more. It's still there. I don't know if this is ever being noticeable, but we're just doing some investigative work. Sometimes if you're having trouble, just do this, guys. Just isolate an area and do overrides and keep re-rendering until you figure out which one. So I don't think it was a light. Let me turn that off now. Nope, it wasn't a light. Single scattering. So we could scale this by, like, I'm just going to do 4. We're going to go nuts. Maybe it is refraction. Maybe it's caused from the lights. I don't know. Let's just try it. Scale it by 4. It could just be our overall samples. Sometimes it's just that. So I'm going to turn that off, because none of those really changed it that much. And this is, you know, important to do when you're optimizing your render and to see what is causing an issue. Wait, was it this? Let's see. No, we're still getting it on the reflections. Okay, so we're just gonna, for kicks and giggles, we're gonna crank these samples up. I'm just curious. And IPR. Sorry, this is going a little bit longer. See, and I cranked the samples, but really we're still getting that. So again, what I would have to do is keep kind of testing out some of this stuff until we get it. I'm wondering, if it was what we talked about for the optimization stuff. Let's just see. I'm just gonna turn this on. 4 steps. Still a little bit of noise. Seems like it's cleaning that up though. Maybe it was that. Maybe the hairs are so small and they're catching some light. So these are kind of things that you want to do, you know, throughout, and kind of make sure your renders, because you'll start getting, the more things you add in, the more noise you're going to get, the more you're going to introduce a lot more things. And it's good to just like test your renders and see what, you know, what's going to be the fastest and look the best. And so by doing overrides and testing just small areas, and seeing if even cranking your samples like makes a difference. It may just be taking longer, but it's really not making a big enough difference for anyone to notice. So just do this kind of stuff. Just take a region and render it over and over and over until you find the least amount of noise and it's still going plenty fast. Because I really don't think anyone would notice from this far away, because those are so small. It could just even be a resolution, because already that's like completely gone. So we were zoomed in pretty far. Yeah, see, you wouldn't even be able to tell. You just have to render, make sure that your animation's not doing weird stuff. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, guys. We did hair, we did subsurface scattering, we did a couple different things, and I think it overall it turned out pretty good. Let's see what this render looks like. Now, see, in the IPR window, we're getting more noise, which is very interesting than the normal render window. So, anyway, I hope this is helpful. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Follow me I'm on Instagram. I post some of my work and things like that. We're on Facebook, VFX Central, YouTube. Now we're on Twitch, and a whole bunch of other things. Stay tuned. I'm still working on the crash course. I feel like it's coming together very well. And yeah, let me know if you guys ever have any questions. Message me, comment, I love to hear from you guys. And yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you later.